What's up, guys, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Daily Show. It is Toasty Takes Thursday, May the 30th. I am the host of the show, the Notorious Nerdy D, the voice of the casual wrestling community, and each and every day I drop in for a few moments to talk to you guys, the CWC, about the biggest things going on in the world of professional wrestling, starting today with... So according to Fightful Select, unless a new deal is reached between the two parties, Chad Gable's current WWE contract is set to expire late next week, and seemingly no details on a new deal have been put together. Spoiler alert, IWC, before your little wrestling wieners get all excited, nobody is willingly leaving the WWE ever again. The reason that these guys are not getting these contracts signed is because Triple H has zero fear and zero urgency that any top-level talent will jump to the sinking ship. Unless Gable can con Tony Khan into giving him a seven-figure bag, he isn't going anywhere. And if Tony Khan is dumb enough to give Chad Gable a seven-figure bag, then more power to Chad Gable for pulling the wool over Tony Khan's eyes and pulling off the deal of the century. Like, Chad Gable, go get your money, son. If you can get it, go get your money. But the only reason that people go to AEW anymore is because Tony Khan will overpay for them. There is no other incentive to join AEW right now. Chad Gable feels like a smart enough guy to me to understand where the stability and the biggest opportunities for success lie. We could talk about Becky Lynch. We could talk about Chad Gable, but these are just overreactions of the IWC. Most likely, these are contract issues that happened because TKO took over and they froze some of the negotiations and they kind of slipped through the cracks. And here we are getting to the end of these contracts and they come up as points of discussion, but there's no real fear of any of these people leaving WWE unless Tony Khan decides to just astronomically overpay one of these superstars. But the reality is there's no way that Triple H spends the last 3 months building up Chad Gable so that he can walk out the door. You don't build up a Kurt Angle level Chad Gable to then have him walk out the door and go to the other company. You have to believe that Triple H is so confident right now. He is in his pocket so much right now that he is not even worried about these contracts. You have guys like Ethan Page talking about he showed up on NXT not under contract. I think Triple H knows right now there is no fear. There is no fear, especially for the top-level superstars, the Becky Lynches, the Chad Gables, because it is going to take an astronomical number for Tony Khan to pluck one of these guys away. And then if he does, I think Triple H is a little bit happy, right? I think Triple H is happy if Chad Gable takes that bag and walks off into the sunset, knowing that he'll probably be back. He'll be back once the AEW train is over. But the reality is here, like I said, there's no reason. You guys can't name me a reason. There is no reason right now that anybody would jump ship from WWE to AEW. Don't make the argument, oh, it's a lighter schedule. That means you're just not serious about what you do. If you're looking for a lighter schedule, then you're not trying to be the best at what you do. And then that's fine. Go to AEW. WWE doesn't want you. If you're not trying to be the best at what you do, WWE doesn't want you. But unless they're backing up the money truck, nobody is going to willingly walk out of WWE right now. It's just not happening. Tony Khan says that he will not tamper with the contract of the great star Becky Lynch. Here we go again. Let's do it again. Like, same thing as the first story. Tony, it's not that you're not going to tamper. It's that you can't tamper. There's a huge distinction between these two options. One means that they will entertain an offer that comes from you. The other means Nobody's listening to the things you say. It just feels right now like Tony Khan has to insert himself into every wrestling conversation that is a part of the dirt sheets. Tony Khan can only chase the low-hanging fruit because he knows he can overpay to get a big headline. But when it comes to the Chad Gables, when it comes to the Becky Lynches, he can't back the truck up. WWE will match those offers, and WWE has so much more to offer outside of just the bag of money. Let's look at the most recent AEW signings that Tony Khan's used as a headline. Mercedes Moné was disgruntled with WWE, and she still entertained offers from Triple H. She didn't get the bag she wanted, so she ran off to AEW. Will Ospreay, he didn't want the grind at WWE. He doesn't want to have to show up and tell stories every day, but he still entertained the offers because that allure of WrestleMania will always stick in the back of a wrestler's mind, knowing that money has to be really, really good for me to jump ship and get on a sinking boat. And we talked about MJF on Tuesday or on Wednesday. And I think it's the same thing here. I think MJF entertained an offer from WWE. It wasn't where he wanted it to be. Tony Khan gave him a blank check, and it was enough money to justify putting off WrestleMania for the time being. But Tony Khan will overpay mid-card wrestlers so that he can make announcements. That's the business that Tony Khan's in, guys. He wants to run the dirt sheet headlines. He wants to go on Twitter and tell you guys that he has a big special announcement. So he will overpay mid-card wrestlers to come to his company. But Tony Khan is not going to get into real bidding wars for top WWE stars. Now, he's going to pretend like he is. He's going to make headlines by saying, I won't tamper, or I'm definitely considering an offer, but he's not. He doesn't want to get embarrassed. He doesn't want the dirt thrown on his face when he has to realize that money isn't the only thing that wrestlers look for, especially when WWE and TKO are going to match the bag on some of these bigger names. AEW doesn't have any bargaining chips outside of overpaying mid-card wrestlers. What is Tony Khan going to say to Becky Lynch? Hey, you want to come over to AEW and wrestle in front of hundreds of fans every week in these tiny little arenas? You want to do what like Adam Copeland did and jump off the top of the cage and blow out both of your knees to wrestle in front of 600 people a night? Like that, there's no selling point. Hey, you want to do Double or Nothing in the MGM Convention Center? Or you want to do WrestleMania in the big arena that's across the street that looks like a spaceship in Las Vegas? There's no question. There's no question. This is like, you're not tampering because you can't. And now it comes out that Tony Khan is starting to morph into Vince McMahon. There's reports that he's making last minute changes to pay-per-views and to Dynamite, and he's calling wrestlers up at the last minute saying, hey, can you show up? We've got something for you. Look, this is because he's shook. He sees the writing on the wall. It's not fun anymore. It's not easy to book a wrestling promotion when you've run out of surprises, when you've run out of the big announcements, when you can't do the Twitter thing that he was doing for the last, year and a half, where he would tease these big surprises and the IWC would overreact and then they'd show up. It was all fun and games for Tony Khan when he was booking against Vince McMahon. It was easy when he was booking against a dated guy who had lost kind of the reality of what pro wrestling is. It's not fun anymore now that Triple H has claimed the playground. Triple H has retaken over the wrestling space, and now Tony Khan isn't the cool guy anymore. And Tony Khan's show's being run by his mean girl club of EVPs. It's not fun anymore. And now the reports are coming out that Tony Khan is mad at WB because they're not going to back the truck up. They see the ratings. They see the 600,000 fans watching a week, and they're not going to back the truck up the way he thought they were going to back the truck up. He thought that he was going to recoup some of this Mercedes Moné money through a TV rights deal. Now he has to go explain to his dad that he maxed out all the credit cards on Mercedes Moné and MJF, And the TV companies don't want to pay. They don't want to pay for a show that only does 600,000 viewers. They don't see it as competition to WWE. They don't see it as a marketing incentive for the channel. Right now, AEW is a failing product. And the fact that he expected TV companies to just come running because, look, I have all of these dream matches. These dream matches don't sell tickets. They just fuel the IWC. That's all they do. And I promise you, IWC, I promise you guys, once this isn't fun anymore, once this is not fun for Tony Khan, he is going to shut the doors. You're not going to see it coming. It's just going to randomly happen one day. He's going to keep telling you, I'll do this forever. But when it's not fun anymore and the business becomes a job and not a hobby, he's just a spoiled kid playing with his toys. And I've been around enough spoiled kids to know that once the game's not fun anymore, they pack up all the toys, they put them in a closet never to be seen again, and they go find something else to do. He will find a new hobby when the stress overshadows the fun of professional wrestling. And right now, we are trending in that direction. Let's see. Fans expected to see a continuation of Toni Storm and Mariah May's ongoing mentor-mentee feud with Saraya and Harley Cameron on this week's episode of AE Dynamite. As of May, Saraya and May were slated to go one-on-one on Wednesday's card as announced on AEW Control Center. That video is now private. However, hours before the show, Saraya published, then deleted a cryptic tweet that said, "About to really start speaking my mind." Hey, Saraya, so much for all of that. It's nice to have a boss that actually listens talk. You remember when you were saying all that? Like, has anybody else noticed how quickly these attitudes are turning in AEW? Has anybody else noticed that when things don't go the way that Tony Khan promised, all of these wrestlers start to throw fits? It's because he promises. He overpromises and underdelivers. And so now Saraya gets on social media and she threatens to speak up. Where's Bryan Danielson? Isn't he supposed to be in charge of talent relations or handing out fines for anybody who speaks their mind? Like it's Nazi Germany? Like, I think what happened here is Saraya woke up one day and realized that she's in the minor leagues of pro wrestling. Everything that she was promised about being competition, it wasn't true. And I'll agree with Saraya. You're bigger than this. You're bigger than what AEW has to offer, and you're bigger than what AEW has given you at this point. This has been my argument about Tony Khan from the day I started watching AEW wrestling and his style of booking. He will book 10 guys that nobody in the casual wrestling world has ever heard of over people like Saraya, Britt Baker, these commercially successful wrestlers that are extremely talented. He'll put them on the bench to make sure that he appeases this small group of IWC fans. And people like Saraya and people like Britt Baker, they get confused because the IWC sides with them for a little bit until the IWC finds a cooler, more hip product to turn their attention to. Saraya should be women's champion for AEW. She is the biggest name that you have in the company right now, along with Mercedes Moné. That should be being booked all over the place. Sprinkle in a little bit of Britt Baker, and you could book the women's division in an intelligent way to actually get it over. You've got to get Britt Baker back involved. You've got to get Saraya more involved. You've got to start putting Mercedes Moné in the ring with top talent. Stop segmenting your women's roster and start putting them in the ring together. Tony Khan, let me come book the AEW women's division. I will make it the most interesting part of your show. You have the talent. The talent's there. Toni Storm, between Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Saraya, and Mercedes Moné, I can make those four the cornerstone of talent around what else you have, and we could fill in the holes. I could make it happen. But you're constantly booking down the road with your women's division, right? Oh, this will look good in Wembley. No. Do it now. Do it right now. Put the best matches you can in your women's division right now and start to build and bolster that. And then we can worry about Wembley when we get there. Like, as far as Saraya, here's the reality. And Saraya has commented on things I've said before, so I assume somehow she hears what I say. But this is what happens, Saraya. This is what happened when Tony Khan gets tired of his toys. You're worth more than this. You're worth more than what Tony Khan is giving you as far as booking goes. If my suggestion, finish up your contract and come back to the company that actually will appreciate you. Like, we appreciate you as casual wrestling fans in the WWE. We appreciate you. We miss you. We want you back. There will always be a place for you in WWE. There will always be a place for the Legend page. So finish up what you're doing, stick it out, and come back home. Jordan Grace was revealed as Roxanne Perez's opponent for Battleground during this week's episode of NXT, surprising both fans of WWE, NXT, and TNA. Fightful Select reports that Perez was genuinely surprised by Grace's appearance as she insisted on not knowing her opponent beforehand to ensure an authentic reaction. I'm not an NXT guy. Don't watch it. I'm not a TNA guy. Don't watch it. It's hard to overreact to something like this because I'm not a fan of either one of these. But, like, this is the forbidden door. This is what you guys in the IWC have wanted forever. I guess it's time to start appreciating, Triple H a little bit more. From my perspective, this is Triple H doing exactly what you guys have wanted. He is starting to cut in to the IWC and the AEW audience. He's already got the casuals locked in. So now he's starting to try to take and chip away at that AEW audience. And from my perspective, this is insanely smart by Triple H. Not only are you chipping away at that audience, but he's just securing more talent for the future. I think Triple H sees TNA as another farm system for WWE. So he's closed the door between AEW and TNA, and he's created a secondary farm system for WWE where these kind of outside wrestlers who make a name on their own can slide right into the NXT system. He gains access back to his Mustafa Ali's, back to his Dolph Ziggler's. He can do some crossover. And on the flip side, for TNA, I think they just secured a partnership with WWE that's probably in the long run, in the next 6 months, going to make them the second most watched wrestling company in the entire business. You're talking about, we could have AJ Styles go back to TNA with a run. That's going to get watched more than AEW. We could have Drew McIntyre making TNA appearances. That's going to get watched more than AEW. Watch the TNA ratings shoot through the roof because of this partnership. The IWC doesn't understand that WWE and TKO now view the playing field as Raw and SmackDown are on top. There's nothing close. There's nothing comparable. Underneath that, you have NXT, TNA, and AEW all on the same hypothetical level. Like, main roster, Raw and SmackDown, no, they're not competing with these companies anymore. Like, there was a kind of illusion at one point that AEW was competing. Not anymore. It's NXT, it's AEW, it's TNA. And so this is another example of Triple H transitioning out of the stubborn Vince McMahon era where Vince, didn't want to acknowledge that other things existed. And this is Triple H speaking to that IWC, giving an olive branch out and taking control of the headlines and the dirt sheets, which is Tony Khan's favorite thing to do. Once again, the story has become how cool of a boss Triple H is and how he's opened a forbidden door, which is a term that had become synonymous with AEW for the last couple years. So this is just intelligent by Triple H, on top of the fact that he has Ethan Page show up on NXT, which I think is far more about Triple H showing AEW wrestlers you can make the jump. You can make the transition. That pipeline that used to go from WWE to AEW, we've turned it around, and it now can go from AEW to NXT. He's basically announcing, here's an open door for you guys who are underutilized in AEW. When your contracts run out, here's a home for you. We'll give you a shot. We'll give you an opportunity. I don't know if Ethan Page works out, but the fact that this guy who at one point AEW was investing in is now showing up on NXT just kind of shows that Triple H is willing to play ball. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on today's episode. Make sure to join the Casual Wrestling Club. Link is in the description of this video. Make sure to join the Casual Wrestling Discord. Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to hang out. I am Nerdy D. This is the Casual Wrestling Daily Show, and we will talk more pro wrestling tomorrow.